Hello everyone and welcome to our another Innovatology episode. Innovatology is a one-stop shop to the latest tech and innovation. We care about your digital skills because they are really important for your career growth, for your online businesses, and even much more. I am Marie, the CEO and founder of Innovatology, and I am here today with Ian, and we will be speaking about lead generation. Hello, Ian.
Hi, thank you for yet another invite. It's great to be back.
Yes, actually, we know each other with Ian for some time. He was the first guest that I had on the podcast already 2 years ago. So he was the beginning of my career in the podcasting. It was online podcast that we had together, and it was for another project of mine. But now we are here in person after 2 years in Helsinki, even, which
Right.
is just wow. Like I cannot imagine how world is small. And so, can you maybe tell our audience more about yourself? Maybe some of you who are watching us right now, you can already know Ian from the previous podcast 2 years ago. But for those who don't know who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, we are here in Helsinki, Finland. That's where I'm based. My name is Yann Ilunga, and I'm a consultant. I've been in the podcasting space for, at the time we're recording, for 10 years now. And to date, I've published close to 500 episodes, audio only. I've done some work with video as well. And in my work, I help clients with lead generation and prospecting, so the topic that we're covering today. And I also have a second venture with a business partner called Jeremy, who's based in the States, in Indiana. Shout out to Jeremy. And we call ourselves Expert Content Pros with that venture, and we have a twofold focus. On the one hand, we help clients with video content, the strategy, the planning, the production. And then on the other side of the business, we focus on lead generation, particularly quality connection. So I'm excited to be here and to talk about that topic.
Wow, you have really amazing career. I mean, 500 episodes of podcast, and even like different stuff that you do with the video creation, content creation, etc. It's really impressive. So
Thank you.
I feel even a bit blushing having you here on our podcast. Because can you maybe tell our audience more about what is lead generation, or like what, for example, some of the people might not know what does it actually mean, lead generation?
Yeah, absolutely. There is different, if you ask different people, they may give you different definitions of lead generation. Often it's synonym of building an email list. But simply put, lead generation is the act of taking specific actions online. It can also be done in person, but in our case, in Innovatology, we talk about online on a platform, let's say like LinkedIn. So are specific actions that you take with the purpose of having people gravitate toward you. And that may mean, for example, you do some research, you create a list of people, companies you want to focus on, and that would be your list of leads. So very simply, lead generation is the action of generating leads, which are data sets really. And depending on your business, that may be somebody's first and last name and email address, phone number, maybe something else that can be relevant for your business, geographical location too. And basically it's the packaging, if you like, of that piece of information. So the actions of finding the right people and companies to focus on, and ultimately, if things go well, to do business with.
That's really interesting, and I even have like practical case for also our audience that they can embark on this journey after when they watch this episode. Because I'm also currently having a slight issue with the leads, mainly like for Innovatology, that we try to let's say optimize the lead generation, how to follow up with people, etc. So like we have different kind of channels where we are getting the leads from, like for example from the events when we are in for example in Helsinki for the slush, or in different parts of the world. But the main lead generation is coming actually online from the different platforms, so like LinkedIn, etc. And what we are the first issue here is like that how you can stay focused on because like there is so many distraction nowadays, like there is so many ways where you can take your business, etc. And the leads are coming from the online events, from the physical events, and business cards. And so how to make it really optimized so that you don't end up after every event. For example, right now I came from Slush. Also last week I collected, for example, 200 contacts from the Web Summit, and the only thing that I'm currently doing between the events is just like finding all of the leads where somebody gave me the business card, somebody gave me the LinkedIn, so sales navigator, then somebody gave me the email, then we had some quizzes, so like it was like a type form and stuff like this. So how to stay focused on what matters the most for your business and not to end up in really like optimization of these leads all the time.
Yeah, I think that's an issue that not only you guys are facing, but many companies and individual professionals like coaches, consultants face. I think the first thing to think about is what is the system that we use. So very simply, having a CRM tool, which stands for Customer Relationship Management Tool, and there is plenty, so you can pick whatever you prefer. Having something like that is going to help you. So you have a centralized place where you and everybody in the team can access the contact details of the leads. That's the first thing. Then the second thing I would say is you need to decide what is the most effective way for you to gather those leads. So for example, for me, what I do nowadays is I use a CRM called Break Cold, and with Jeremy, my business partner, we have created different lists or different pipelines, if you'd like. I have some for my own business, some for Expert Content Pros, and we have specific pipelines. For example, we work with coaches, so we have one that is for coaches. Then we have another one, we also work with lawyers. So that one is for lawyers. And in this case, it's a Break Cold, it's a web browser extension that works with LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and so forth. So nowadays, what I do is, let's say I researched and found you on LinkedIn. What I would do, the first thing I do nowadays, even before I send a message or send a connection request, there is the button of Break Cold on your LinkedIn profile. I click that and I add you to the right list.
That's perfect.
So immediately I'm like, okay, because like in your case, for example, if you have a conference and you get however many new contacts, 200, it's going to be very difficult to be able to sort through them. And I have been in that situation too. I remember I've done some speaking, for example, at Podcast Movement, which is the biggest podcasting conference in the world. And I would get home with like stacks of business cards. And back then, I really didn't have a good system like that. So having that sort of system means that when you meet people like that, somebody hands you their business card, you take 30 seconds to be, okay, you go look up the person on LinkedIn and add them. If they're not on LinkedIn, you can, inside the CRM, just create a contact card for the person. And what I really like about it is that you can add notes. So for me, for example, it happens that I have a meeting with a potential client, and then we say, yeah, let's reconnect in a month. When we finish the meeting, I take 30 seconds to write some keynotes so that when we meet, I'm up to date. And often it has happened that people are like, yeah, I have it in my calendar, but I don't remember what we are supposed to talk about. So I say, yep, just let me look at my notes real quick. So I would say having to briefly summarize, having a CRM tool, I think it's key. And then second, try to get into the habit as soon as you get a contact, business card or LinkedIn, it doesn't really matter, immediately add it to your system. Because otherwise, and actually I'll add one more thing, add him or her to the system, and if there is an important note, add it too. And you can do that by typing, or you can even create tags or labels. For example, if you offer different services, or let's say you have a service and a product, you can have a label for product, one for service. So if you're talking with somebody, it's like, oh, this seems more for the service, you just put the tag service. So after the conference is finished, you may not remember everybody, but then you go and look like, oh, okay, this was about the product. And if you have taken some notes, you're like, oh, yeah. So now if we have our next conversation, I know what is the best way to approach it.
And what is called the tool? One more
Break Cold, or it's all one word. Break Cold. Shout out to the Break Cold team. And as I said, there is plenty of options. And nowadays, I would add that many CRM tools have the web browser extension feature I was talking about. So even if you're not using breakcode, many of those give you that ability to easily add somebody from LinkedIn, and in there you can add information without having to leave LinkedIn. That's the cool thing.
Yeah, but the thing is that the CRM is really like there are a lots of softwares for CRM. So, for example, we started to use HubSpot,
Yep.
but the problem is that it's more for corporations. So it's quite expensive. There are also different products. So we also spoke about it in Slush yesterday that they are doing really good in like scaling it up because they are providing new products inside their product, which is interesting for their business and for corporations, but for the small medium businesses it's just not necessary, because then you can use, for example, you can use the
Breakcode.
break code or Zoho, which is also really
True,
good
yeah.
for example, small medium businesses. So this is another one that you can definitely take a look for the lead generation. This is the step number one that you should take in your business. So if I have then like set up the CRM in my business or in my podcast, whatever I'm doing, offering hardware, software, I already have like set up CRM. Then like when it comes to the lead generation, what usually the person should do in order to have optimized leads. So you said also about the text that if I have like product and service, I use the different text. But what is usually then the next step in order to generate? Do you have some tips like on how to generate more leads? Like for example, what is the most recent tip that you have find out in your
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say before you actually go at an event or you start to do lead generation online, I would recommend that you make sure that if you're using LinkedIn or a specific social media platform or your website, it doesn't really matter, but whatever you use, you want to make sure that it's optimized for the type of people you wanna have conversations with, and then you want to do business with. So that's the first thing I would say, to make sure that everything is optimized. And is it okay if I share also what many tend to do, which is not what I would recommend
Yeah,
doing?
definitely. So what to not do?
Yeah, because many people, what they do is, okay, they just have scripts and they have a list of, let's stick with the example of Slash and
Yes.
Innovatology. 200 people, okay, everybody's gonna get the same copy and pasted message, and it's often super generic. And even not only it's generic, but often it's like, hey, nice to meet you, here's my new
Yeah.
product,
I
here's my
hate
new
this.
book, here's my new whatever. And that doesn't work. So I would say don't do that. What Jeremy and I would recommend doing, and we actually have created a method that we call the S.P.A.R.K catalyst method. And S.P.A.R.K is an acronym where every letter stands for something. We recommend, and I'm gonna add, we are not the ones or the only ones who recommend doing this, but that you put emphasis on the personalization. Everybody is trying to look for ways to reach as many people as possible, as fast as possible. But you should ask yourself, how can I reach people in the best way for them? Not for you and for your business, but for them. So what does this entail? This entails a little bit of research to understand, and you can do it manually, or you can use AI. It can help you identify certain things. But start to do some research and see, is there a specific topic that appears to be a pain point that maybe they explicitly ask about? Hey, we want to use a CRM tool. What's your best suggestion? And if you are a CRM tool consultant, for example, that would be already a signal in the right direction for you. So you want to start to focus on those signals. And then what you want to do is you want to start to get on their radar. So if you have met already in person, it's different because you already built a little bit of personal connection. But if you have connected online, that may be a bit different. So I would recommend that first, in the case of LinkedIn, for example, you leave, if they publish content, you leave some meaningful comments to their post. Not just, yeah, great post, I love it, but really that you add something to it. Yes, this is gonna take time, but this is gonna have a greater impact, because at the end of the day, people, and we have heard it before, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And you don't build, like, the like factor can be a bit subjective. The knowing can be a bit subjective, but the trust, it's something that, you know, you can try to do your best to be likable, to be somebody that people know and somebody that people trust. So you want to start with the comments. You want to get on their radar. You want to join their conversation first. And then when the time comes, then you can say, hey, what about continuing the conversation one-on-one? So you can move from a public conversation in the comments to a DM conversation. Yes. And then from there, you can move to for example, a call, if that's sort of the flow that one tends to use. Having said that, though, with Jeremy and our S.P.A.R.K catalyst, we have a bit of a more nuanced approach, because we recommend using content that we call catalyst content. Okay. So what is catalyst content?
But maybe first what the S.P.A.R.K is, because I'm like really waiting for like what each letter then stands for.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I'm already like, so specific, personalized, action, and
so
then I don't know what is
exactly what I'm about to say. What do you have for the R and
yes,
the K?
But maybe I'm also wrong with S, P, and A.
Yes, definitely. You know, I'm gonna be nice and say that it was nice to see you try, but you didn't hit on single one of them.
Not at all, not even one. Not even
one.
with P. I was like with the personalized at least.
So S.P.A.R.K, it's let's call it a tool that everybody can use, and it's a different way to look at your network, at your existing network, because most people look at their network this way. Is this a client? No. Can they be a client? Yes, no. And that's it, pretty much. Some people maybe think about partners, but that's really it. But you have more people in your network that could help you with your business directly or indirectly. And that's where S.P.A.R.K as an acronym come into play. So S stands for super connectors. And these are people, for example, on LinkedIn who are really active.
Okay.
So if you look at their profile, you look at their activity, comments, you see that they're very active. They like to share their 2 cents, they ask questions, they elevate others, they pay compliments.
Is it like influencers on LinkedIn, kind of?
Can be influencers, but it can even be somebody who doesn't necessarily have a very big audience, but it's somebody that
really
would be good. Yeah. Exactly. That person would be good for me to have in my network, because if I share a specific piece of content, and in a moment I'll tell you what that content can be, that's a person that is likely to engage. So if I ask a question and I'm curious to hear what people think, that person may be somebody who's likely to give me his or her 2 cents. So S stands for super connectors. Then we have P, which stands for potential partners. And this, I think, it's pretty self-explanatory. So you see, you were really far off.
Yeah. So what is the P?
Actually, sorry, I take it back. S stands for, what did you say, specific? So specific, super connected.
I said specific, personalized action.
There you go. So P stands for personalized potential partners.
Okay, so I was not that far.
You were really on track. And those are basically people that you would like to collaborate with, and in different forms. But the idea is, okay, these are people I would like to collaborate with. Then we have A, that stands for, was it action?
Yes.
Allies.
Allies, okay.
And allies are people like current clients, past clients, or even partners that you've done things with before, but maybe they've been out of touch, or you have been out of touch, so they would need to be re-engaged. Then R stands for reporters and news curators, and K stands for key individuals, prospects, potential clients. So why it's important to use S.P.A.R.K as we look at our network is because you may have different goals for your business. And for example, you may say, you know, our goal for the next quarter for Innovatology is to increase our visibility, let's say. If that's the case, I would say apply S.P.A.R.K to your network and focus on the R and maybe the P as well. So do I have somebody in my network who is a reporter, is a content creator, writes for publications, has a podcast, and things like that? Exactly right. So if, let's say, for example, if I had a book that I wanted to promote, somebody like you, it would be perfect, because I could say, okay, she could be like a potential partner or even a reporter, because you have a platform for me to be to be on. So having this approach to your network is going to help you understand that you may have a network that is big or small in size, but it doesn't really matter, because if you start to look into it, you'll see that you have different groups of people, and every of those groups can help you in a different way.
That's amazing. I really like the each letter like that stands for something, but it's really just for the like lead generation specific, because I can really practically apply it on our business, how we can like even because I was until now I was really thinking about leads as a lead, as some like contact, like some of them were stronger, some of them were lighter. Also like when it comes to the LinkedIn, you try your best, but right now I put in the category in my head, in the category each person that I have met throughout the last 2 weeks, and they really can suit in each letter, which is just brilliant. I just love it. And I just had like when you said that it's about the super
Super connectors.
yes, super connectors, because it seems to me that it's more like in currently in USA, that I see more of this like super connectors on LinkedIn, especially from the US. In Europe, it starts to now booming, but it's really in the initial stage, because when I'm, for example, sharing on LinkedIn, a lots of my clients or even like potential leads, they're like, what she's doing, like this is not Instagram. And but this is really what is coming from the US, it seems to me, that this style of how to use the social, because at the end like LinkedIn is social media. It's just like that we are also a more like strengthening the professional relationships online, because on Instagram you have rather your personal connections. It can be also used for professional, but it's more like that people are open about the specific issues. But on LinkedIn in Europe, it's still, I would say to some extent, with some people, taboo to be like super connected. They don't know that it's like really like
Well, and there is something to think about. And this has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with you. This is just to do with how social media platforms work. And it's valid for LinkedIn, but it's valid for other platforms too. I agree with what you said. It's definitely something that comes more from, let's say it's a way of thinking and using the platform that comes more from North America. But they are called social media for a reason. And if you're on LinkedIn, for example, and you don't really do anything other than logging in maybe like once a week to post a blog post and then you leave, that's not going to take you really far, because what you're doing, it's a so-called drive-by, meaning that you show up, you say, hey, I'm here, here's my post, see ya. So the platform the algorithm is not really going to give you visibility. And that's why many LinkedIn experts, myself included, suggest, and this has been proven, that if you engage before you post, then when you post or you publish a post, it's gonna get a boost from LinkedIn. Why? Because you have been contributing to the platform first. And I'll add another thing for everybody who's here with you and I. When it comes to your approach to social media, you may say, well, LinkedIn, we don't really use it because we don't have a lot to share. Here's a thing to keep in mind. If you go on LinkedIn next week, let's say, and every day you publish 5 posts, that's spam.
yeah.
Right? That's spam. If next week you go on LinkedIn and every day you leave 10 comments, that's being a super user of LinkedIn.
Super engagement.
Exactly. So you need to remember, this is important to keep in mind, is that we, like as creators, we tend to think, well, I'll create content and then comments, it's sort of a secondary thing. We should change the focus and say, comments are content too. So I may publish once a week, but I may be super active in my comments. And comments, especially if I leave comments on other people's posts, are a great tool to attract people toward my profile and toward what is sort of like my ecosystem.
That's a really great tip for the social engagement on social media. I also I had a coaching with Jasmine from Hey Jay, and he's like expert on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And he told me that Also like what he's doing is like brilliant, and it's that he's doing really a lots of comments, so like he's doing 10 comments per day, and then after the full week, so it's for example 50, 70 comments per week that he's generating, and on Sunday he's sitting down and he is going through all of the comments that he has generated, and the comment that has the most likes, it's his post for the next week. It's
They
just that he's actually like all the time just engaging. He's not like creating from the scratch a content that he's like, oh, what I will post today about what is clever or something. But it's like the pre-validation that people will actually like it.
he
So
already
like,
has the
yeah,
audience
because
because it's
people can
there.
like the comment, and then he sees, okay, like this comment has like 200 likes and that comment has 70 likes. So why would I post something that is like related to the less engaging post than the other one, right? So
Yeah.
it's like an interesting tip as well. And I also started to use a software which is called Use-Aware. I don't know if
Oh,
you are.
I know the software. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also like a really amazing for the LinkedIn engagement, and they are like pushing you towards, for example, commenting and engaging with people who are not inside your. So like you have on LinkedIn, you have different connections, right? You have like first connection, second, third, and the best engagement tip and trick is to engage with the people who are on second and the third, because then it's like broadening up your opportunities, and Use-Aware platform can actually help you to sort out the influencers who you want to target and dig deeper into the leads of the super connectors. Especially I'm using it for because I'm sometimes I feel that that like when you are having your business and when you are yourself, you have some career, you are in the certain bubble, let's say you are in a
Yeah.
bubble of your connections. You for example go out and extend that bubble when you go to the conferences like Slash or Web Summit, etc., because you can like meet people from different topics than you usually do, but usually we stay in our bubble, in the comfort zone. And what the Use-Aware is helping me with is that it's giving me the tips on with whom I can engage from the second and the third. And it's really easy to. So within 10 to 15 minutes, you actually have you then have like done LinkedIn for that day. You don't need to spend like 5 hours as some people might spend on LinkedIn. But do you maybe have some other tips how the people can extend their comfort zone of the relationships, not only like on LinkedIn, but on in when we are speaking about the lead generation, like how to get out and like get the potential clients of yours. So for example, if I'm like having a service and I want to extend my clientele outside of my current connections because they are usually passive followers, not really active. So how to get outside of the current bubble?
Yeah, absolutely. First, shout out to Jay. I don't know him personally, but I definitely have learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
And he has, speaking of comments, he has some great content that really talks about the power of commenting. Now, to answer your question, I think one of the, well, there's a couple of tips I would like to share. The first one is that we tend, when we are on a sales call, for example, we think that, okay, I should talk as much as possible. I need to have, it's a 30-minute call. I need to have like 55 slides to show. And I need to make sure that I highlight how, like all the features of whatever it is that I sell. But what we should do is, and this may sound cliche, but it's to really listen. Because if we ask the right questions and we really pay attention, people not only are going to talk about their pain point, but they're going to talk about it in a very specific way. They're going to say some very specific things, they're going to use a very specific language, and that's what you could then use, for example, on a sales page, on a landing page, and that's what makes people feel like, she gets me, she really understands, like that's exactly how I talk about it. So when you're on a sales call, ask questions, listen, like really listen, and then you can use something that is very powerful, which is paraphrasing, repeat back. Now, you don't need to, every time somebody gives you an answer, you don't need to repeat it. But when there is something very powerful, and then it's your turn to speak, you can say, just to make sure that I understood correctly. And you basically tell the person what he or she just told you. on a psychological level, that's really impactful because it's gonna position you closer to them as somebody that, okay, she really understands what I'm saying. Like she really understands how I'm feeling. And when you start to sort of have people move from an emotional standpoint, that's when they start to really come closer to you and start to be more open than when it comes to a more sales or deal closing oriented conversation. So this is something that we don't do enough of in person, also online, because that's the thing. Also online, we think, okay, I need to promote my book or whatever it is that one sells or wants to promote, instead of trying to understand, okay, I want to sell you this.
A cup.
if you're somebody that for some reason doesn't like cups, mugs, I can try to tell you, this color you won't care, but this handle you won't care, this material you won't care. If you're a vegetarian and I have a restaurant and we sell meat, I can tell you, we have the best steak in the city. You're like, well, yeah, I'm a vegetarian. So, no, but you don't understand. We have the best barbecue sauce. And you'll be like, yeah, still doesn't matter. And that's what people tend to do. We have a sales call. I think I have a sales call with you. I think that I know what you need. And that's not true. I may have some hints that I was able to collect by doing research, by studying you, by having exchanges online. But then when we're on the sales call, I need to say, okay, let's have a conversation with her, in this case, and see, were my assumptions correct? Yes, no. And if they were correct, like how much of a pain point this is for you? Maybe there is a couple of things, and I'm thinking the first thing here, it's so important. The second, it's and then when we talk, it turns out that this one that I thought wasn't important for you is the key thing.
Yeah.
So if I'm really listen and I notice that in my head, I'm like, okay, this one, I'll put it aside and I'll focus on this. But if we don't listen, but if I'm just thinking, I'll ask a question, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, my next question is gonna be this one, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, that's amazing analogy how to actually like approach the sales. I read something similar in Think Again. It's a book, and there are different personalities of the different people. There is like politician, preach, scientist, etc. And what you just explained, it really seems to me like to really go from the scientist perspective of having different hypotheses, because like usually what people do here is like preaching, like I have the best product or I have the best book. I mean, like we are all humans and we are all experts in something. So for example, even though we would be selling the same service, I have different background, I have different perspective on the stuff. So it's I mean, having the preach mindset is not the best when it comes to the sales for speaking with the potential clients. However, what you explain is like that you have the hypothesis that, for example, I might be interested in for example, in the steaks, then you might be that you might, if you would like to open the restaurant, for example, you will be thinking about, okay, what kind of food I will be selling there. So the first hypothesis is having a steakhouse. It's expensive, but people like to, enjoy when they're going out. Then the second one is the vegan. People nowadays like to go like alternative. And the third one is to have junk food like pizza,
Right, fast
pizza,
food
yeah,
or
yeah, because it's cheap and it's just easy to just start from one day to another to start to do the pizzas and things like this. And then if you are like just doing it based on your like what you think,
assumptions.
yeah, assumptions, it's just like that you can invest a lot into the business that it might be not profitable at the end. But if you go and you ask people inside your town because there are people of the certain culture, of the certain taste, what they are missing in the town, and then just replying to the demand, so like that you provide them the supply and you then meet the demand with supply, it's just win-win for the both. So It's then called something like a research market that you should be doing before you are starting with the new product, with the new service, with the new project. Because this is also what we did with Innovatology, that we started with a study. So we did a research and we find out that people are really low with their digital skills. So, like because I'm coming originally from the Czech Republic, and people are really below the average of the digital skills, whereas in Belgium it was much higher. And then we started to brainstorm about how we can elevate digital skills of the people in the different member states, and even to put it outside of the EU. And we started with Innovatology to do it in more engaging way via the vlogs, via the podcast that we have today, because I think that also not a lot of our audience might know about the lead generation. What does it even mean? Because when I heard it for the first time, maybe like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was like lead generation. Like, are we speaking about something like Gen Z, or
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
it? Like,
A
what's
generation of leaders, what?
yeah, what should I do with that? So it's really important to speak about it openly and really cover the basics of these things that are the new normal, because everybody nowadays is to some extent online. Somebody might prefer to have more privacy, but we all sell either ourselves online, or the services or the products, because we, for example, need the business growth. We want promotion, so then if we are showing online about what we are good, then it's always nice to show in your LinkedIn or other platforms. Speaking about the platforms, what is your favorite social media where the people who are watching us can actually follow you, or how they can get in touch with you regarding the tips about the lead generation, or podcasting and others?
And may I add one quick tip after I share the platform?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the platform would be LinkedIn. Pretty obvious. I've talked about it. It's LinkedIn, and it's a platform that I hit myself in the head sometimes that I'm like, yeah, I should have approached it seriously like earlier, but it's easier to say it, afterwards. But the tip I want to share is this: sales is a conversation, because I don't come from a sales background. I come from a communications background. And
Okay.
somebody may say, well, it's easy for you to talk about psychology of communication because it's your ever expertise. Yes, but the point is that it's about having a conversation. And I would say this: what I consider maybe the best tip when it comes to sales calls, and this is something I learned from somebody who uses the username Alec Octopus on Instagram, so shout out to him.
Okay.
He said, and this is a tip that all of us should use when it comes to sales, is we should be like doctors. Doctors do two things. The first, they diagnose. So if you go to the doctor and say, my knee hurts, the doctor is not going to say, okay, here you go, I prescribe something. First, they start to ask you what happened.
Yeah.
Did you hit it? Did you fall? Was it while you were doing some sports? And then
Depends in which country you are at the doctor.
that's a very okay. Let's say in theory, because it's a very good addition.
Because in Czech Republic, you say like whatever you say that is wrong with you, they're like, they're antibiotics. Bye.
Okay, let's say a good doctor
Yes.
should first, or for us, when we enter a sales conversation or sales call, we should first diagnose. Then we prescribe. And I have the best example of this. I have two clients, same gender, similar age, same country, same pain point, want my help. But here's the thing. One of them says, I can do things on my own. Just tell me what I need to do and I will do it. So I can go the do-it-yourself route. The other client says, look, I need hand-holding. I'm not somebody who likes to do things on her own. So let's do it together. So if I wasn't paying attention to that, I could have said, yeah, for both of you, the course, buy the course. Instead, I really listened and said, okay, this one is telling me I don't need a lot of supervision. I don't need a lot of help. You just give me the directions and I'll do stuff myself. So I said, you know what? There is this video training. gives you all the instructions you need, and then you can follow it at your own pace and implement. The other one, no point in saying, there is this video training, because she said, yeah, I need help, I need hand holding. So in her case, I said, yeah, we can do how do you say? We can address the topic at hand through a series of coaching sessions. So that's something just to say that if we don't listen, if we don't focus really on diagnosing first, we may give the wrong prescription.
Yeah, this is then also making the expert from expert, right? Like you can also then distinguish between junior, medium, and senior. Like usually
Right.
senior knows from when they are speaking with you what you actually need. Whereas like it was also like my experience. I was recently at the investing. So like I wanted to like start to invest myself to just that the money are not on the saving account, and it's important to speak also openly about the finances. And I was like sitting with the investment expert, and it was so interesting because he's like senior in his field. He knows what he's doing, and it was just a disclaimer. This investing expert was not the person to whom I would be giving the money and he would be investing, but I am the owner of my money, and he was just giving me the guidance in what I can invest instead of having it on my saving account. And here it was a really interesting experience because he was like really skilled. He is also one of the most grown brand in the Czech Republic in terms of the investment. Like how he's doing his PR and online branding, it's just like amazing. But what he was doing was like he was really navigating me towards the services and the products that I really need. Because I was like asking, I was digging deeper like into like do I maybe need to go to some conferences about investment? And he was like, no, just focus what you are doing the best, because if you focus on what you are doing the best, then in terms of the finances you will be able to invest more in what I just told you. You don't need to go to conferences, you don't need to buy my courses, you don't need to buy my premium services, even though he could really do it.
Right,
And he
could
could
have pushed for that.
and he could have me as a cherry, like because I was like, wow, this is like everything was great. But he said, no, this is just enough. You know what you should do now, you know what you should focus on. And I just went from the coaching that I had with him, and I was like, wow, like this was just like exactly what I needed, the navigation in the investment, and not to overwhelm me about it not distract me. I think that in the online sphere there are a lot of distractions all the time with a lot of products, and a lot of people, they try to squeeze from you as much as possible, as much money as possible, without even trying to connect with you what you exactly need, and how they can maximize your well-being, your focus, etc. And I think that this is also very much big difference between the expert who is on the other side, who is then selling to you specific products. So thank you for sharing, because it
Yeah.
also now gave me a bit of like a connection why I felt, for example, really good after that session. And it was puzzling me a lot, because nowadays in the marketing you see a lot of like oversales,
Oh yeah.
oversharing. And maybe do you have some tips for our audience how they can like concentrate on, or like how do you do it yourself, that you really focus on what matters the most, and don't you don't just like buy everything what other people are selling you, because it's everywhere.
Yeah, I would say that it's not easy to be disciplined, but that's one of the key skills we need to really focus on and never stop working on. And you need to get into the habit of, in this case, if you want for lead generation to be effective, you need to get into the habit of taking the steps. And if you say, okay, now my goal is to contact these 200 people over the next 3 days, you won't make it. You won't make it. At some point, you're gonna start to feel fatigued and so forth. So it's better to say, okay, what is realistic for me? How much time do I have every day? 15 minutes? Perfect. My goal is to contact 3 people every day. If you put that as a goal, you're gonna be surprised by how far you go, and sort of how impactful those small actions are. Because most people are just like, yeah, I need AI, I need consultants to help me reach not 3 people, 2,000 people, 20,000 people in a day, and then tomorrow another new 20,000 people. And I often tell this to prospects and clients to really help put things in perspective. I say, in my business, if I got 50 new consulting clients tomorrow, it would be a huge problem. I wouldn't be able to deliver. So that's something that most people want: numbers, numbers, numbers. But first you need to understand, okay, what is a number? If everybody I reached out to told me, yes, I want to be a client, I want to start tomorrow, what is a number that would be reasonable for me? I say, okay, this is the number. Then I say, okay, in order to get to that number, how many people do I need to speak to? And I can start to keep track. So I say, okay, the last month or the last 90 days, I've talked or I had X number of sales conversations. How many of those turn into clients? Okay, now I have my conversion rate or my percentage. Then I can look before that and say, the last 90 days, how many people did I invite to have a sales call with me? How many did accept? Now I have my invite to call ratio. So if you backtrack, then you'll know exactly, okay, if I want to have, looking at my stats with the approach I'm having, if I want to get 5 new clients, I need to have whatever. Now I'm just going to throw some random numbers. If I want to have 5 new clients, I need to have 25 sales calls, which means that I need to send the invite to at least 75 people. So then you will know exactly from a quantitative standpoint what to focus on. But the biggest tip is to focus on things that are doable. It's better to spend 5 minutes a day and be very focused and disciplined with what you do, then try to say, okay, yeah, this week we're gonna try to contact all the 200 people, and then you get to maybe like Tuesday and you're like, oh, I'm so fed up, and then you just start to send random templates and you're surprised that it's not working.
Yeah, I really like the quantification that you really put like the statistics, again, the scientific perspective on the stuff, like really logic, like just don't overthinking, no emotion, just look at what you are working with right now and what works and what doesn't. Do you usually do it like 1 time per week or 1 time per month or quarter when you are like sitting down and you say what works, what not, and how you can move forward, how frequently?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you need to have a window of time that has statistical significance. For example, if I were to do it every day, it wouldn't have much sense. So I would say if somebody is starting out, I would start probably first with at least 60 days. For example, for me, I do it on a quarterly basis and I do it on a monthly basis. But it's because it's something that I've already done for a while and I help people with, so it sort of makes sense. But if somebody is starting out, I would say at least track 2 months of activities, and then you'll see exactly what the numbers are. And of course, you may be 1% more, 1% less, but at least you'll have the guidance that you need to be disciplined. So if you know, okay, I need to contact 200 people in the next 2 months, just do the math. Say, okay, if I contact somebody every day, how many people can I reasonably contact? Again, random number, 7 people per day. Okay, how much is that gonna take me? If it's 5 minutes per person, let's say, it's 35 minutes. Do you have 35 minutes? If you don't, say, okay, I'm not gonna contact 7 people, I'm gonna contact only 4.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Yeah. I have a last question from my side, and it's about like what have you learned throughout your career journey? Because you have like you already did like more than like 500 episodes, and like you speak a lot about the lead generation and the content, etc. So like when you look back at the start of your career, what would be one thing that would really like help you in what you already know now with all of your experiences, but if you look back, what would be the one thing that you would give advice to yourself because you, for example, were struggling with it and this would really help you from the beginning?
That's a good question. There is several things I would tell myself. But probably also to tie it to the conversation we've been having, I would say to try to have a system like we talked about earlier as soon as possible, as basic as it can be, so that you start to keep track of things, so that then you are able to contact people, you know how to contact them, when is the right time, what to talk about, what not to talk about. If you have something new to sell, you can, oh, that person said no, courses are not for me. So she may be somebody that I still contact, but instead of saying, well, that's not really what I would say, but instead of trying to sell my course, I may say, look, I'm excited because I have this new course coming out. Any chance that you could help me spread the word? So you see, now that person is not useful, like how people tend to think it's, she's not a good target because she's not gonna buy the course. But guess what? Maybe she's not buying the course, but she introduces me to 3 people.
Yeah.
Or maybe she introduces me just to 1 person, but her budget would have been 1, and the budget of that person is 5. So technically, she's introducing me to 5 like her from a budget standpoint.
Yeah.
So I would say to my younger self, I would say put a system in place, as simple as it can be, but make sure that you put a system in place so that you're able to be disciplined in an easier way. Because when you have something like that, you know, okay, when I log into LinkedIn, or when I do this, when I contact that person, I know what I need to do. And again, even if I only have 10 minutes per day, by knowing what I can do, I can carry out some steps that can have a very big impact.
Yeah, and you also simplify everything. It will also save a lot of time to focus what is next, because then, like when you pilot something new, you then learn how to do it in efficient way, and you can focus on how to then make it more innovative in the future, how to maximize it, how to take on the board more people, or how to do it more automatic in general. So thank you so much, Ian, for this advice. I really enjoyed our podcast, and thank you to all of you who were listening to us about this lead generation episode of Innovatology and the podcast Create the Future Now. So this was a really amazing episode about how to start with the lead generation, how to even like from the step number 1, your CRM, then start to also use the S.P.A.R.K as your catalyst for the different leads, how to categorize them, and how to even unbroaden your bubble of the different contacts, and how to take it even to another level, so that you can maximize your business and move to, for example, even another spheres, and like do something like HubSpot, for example, that they used other products inside the products. So thank you so much, Ian. Do you have some last things that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, it's definitely been a pleasure to be back in this new venture of yours, and also to do it in person. It's fun because, like you, I do a lot of remote work, and I don't get to do interviews in person that often anymore. The final thing I would say is there is a lot that we covered, but it's important that you start with the first step. Start small. If you want to build a house, you start with the first brick. You don't start with everything, you start with the first brick. And the last thing I would add is, if anybody has questions, or maybe you're getting started and you would like for me to have a look at what you're doing, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know that you came through the Innovatology podcast.
Yes, we will also put the link of Ian's LinkedIn below, so you can just simply click there and let him know if you have some questions or if you need help with anything. And in the meantime, while you are here, you also don't hesitate to subscribe, so the upcoming episodes will not be missed, because we have a lot for you in stake of the future guests about the different innovations, AI, how to use the future tools, and how to stay ahead of the digital innovation. So thank you so much, and see you again soon. Bye.